Hey there, friends and enemies, Joper here again, and today I need to talk about the Granblue Fantasy Relink demo, which just recently dropped, because I think this game has a lot of potential. It looks like it could be a ton of fun, and I've been very excited about it over the course of time, ever since I first heard about it. However, I do also have some major concerns that are holding me back from guaranteeing that I'm going to be a day one player and jumping in at launch. I think eventually I might be a big fan of this game, but there are some design decisions that I just personally don't agree with, and so I'm going to jump into all of that. First off, the good things. I thought the single player campaign was fun from what I played so far. I thought the combat solo was pretty good overall as well, and I did like that part of the game, although it didn't feel like it was anything groundbreaking to me, and I wonder if the disconnect between the single player and the co-op really comes back to hindering that single player campaign, the story mode. And that's something that I'll touch on in a little bit as well, because I think that's the crux of my issues. Jumping into the co-op part of it, I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy it over the course of time, just because I don't know how many missions and everything there are going to be. I don't know how much content there is going to be and if it's going to be worth grinding. But I will say the combat in co-op was extremely fun. You'll see in the gameplay, I didn't really master any of the characters. I just tested a bunch of different ones out. And even then, it was a good time. It feels like there's something for everyone. You can have an up-close brawler character. You can have a long-range gun character. You have magic users, healers. You have parry characters if you're really good at parries. There's a lot of different options. You have horde modes to take on, and the boss fights I thought were a lot of fun. It almost feels like a JRPG version of Monster Hunter, which I thought was fantastic. And that had me really, really excited. But that leads me to my biggest issue. I feel like this game doesn't really know what it wants to be. It forces you to play through the entire storyline before you can jump into co-op at all. So it feels like a major disconnect between having to play a 25 or so hour JRPG story, and then you can play co-op with friends and random matchmaking and all that kind of good stuff. And the matchmaking was pretty seamless. I had no issues with the co-op whatsoever. I played with a bunch of random players. Everyone seemed to know what they were doing, and it felt like the co-op version was a great foundation for the game overall. But it just did not line up that you have to play through the entire story in order to unlock co-op. And it feels like, again, the game could have benefited from either focusing more and being a full co-op game, maybe a Monster Hunter type game, but with Granblue Fantasy, all these different characters instead of having just different weapons that you can unlock, and almost an MMO light or something of that nature. It didn't even have to be live service. You could have a game where you just play through and you have a storyline, but it's all focused around doing these missions, unlocking different characters and everything. You could have even had the solo play as well as the co-op as well, and that would have allowed you to continue to play either or in order to unlock different characters, in order to unlock all the different upgrades and all that kind of good stuff for your account. Instead, you have to play completely solo for a long time, but that 25-hour story is not going to be something that I think most traditional JRPG fans are going to enjoy enough. It's not going to be worth it for those players, whereas the co-op players, the folks that want to play multiplayer, the folks who want to get to that end game type of content, or at least play those different missions that look like they're a lot of fun, those players aren't going to want to play through 25 hours in order to get there unless they just really enjoy both aspects. And it just feels like there's no reason to have one tied behind the other. And yes, maybe you could have some characters that could only be unlocked in single player. Maybe you have some characters that could only be unlocked in co-op, and kind of blend the two together to encourage players to play both. But instead, you have to play through one in order to get to the other, and then once you've played through the single-player campaign storyline, then it's full co-op. You can play solo, but it just really changes the dynamic of the game at that point. And for me, it's just kind of concerning that the game isn't as cohesive as I would expect, and it's trying to appeal to different player sets who might not necessarily be willing to spend full price on this game when there are these question marks of if they're going to enjoy the single player part and have to grind that out. The other issue that you have, if you're a co-op player, if you want to play multiplayer and your friends blow through the campaign and you're trying to take your time and enjoy it, and they play through all their co-op stuff and they're way ahead of you, you might not be able to play with them that often, or they might finish up their run in co-op and not play anymore, and then you're stuck not being able to play with your friends because unless they drop down and they play with you, even though they've done everything there is to do. So there are some major concerns of mine. Those are some issues. I do think we've seen some of the future updates that we're getting to the game, and I think they're very exciting. I think we get new characters, we get new equipment, all that kind of good stuff. All that's very cool. I just wonder ultimately if the co-op being locked behind the campaign is going to hold this game back. And for me, it really is. I'm going to be one that I'm in no rush to play this right away, knowing that I have to play the single player story mode in order to get to the co-op, just because I like to take my time and enjoy story-based games and not feel like I need to rush through it in order to get to the part that I'm most looking forward to. So that might be just a me thing, I'm not sure, but it's a concern that I wanted to raise because this is a game that I have been looking forward to. I think it looks really fun. It is really fun from what I've played, but there are just some concerns, and I don't know if it's going to hold up for me as much as I would have liked for it. So anyway, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more Granblue Fantasy Relink content from me. If I can get a bunch of support on these videos, then maybe that'll change my tune, and I'll really dive in, but just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention in case you were unaware, and also talk about it in general and just give my feelings on the matter because I felt like there's a lot going on with this game. And yeah, anyway, my name is Jopa. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.